We kicking it with a couple of brick heads. That's a show that you must catch. We're showing the right way. Brent's bricks and plus max. That's West Coast bricks. So where's all the subs at? Cause everyone is welcome. Ain't no way you could trust past. The girth gang's heavy and it's jank and it's just facts. So if you're thinking of beefing, then I think you should crush that. So trust that we're gonna find a way for Brent to get his $2 back.
Like he was just like, yeah, no self promo in the chat.
This was not a paid advertisement for the Cali Brick Clique, nor is this a real beef, but it's still pretty funny.
I can't lie, I thought on your text, I thought you said Tuesday or Wednesday.
I'm mixing in 5, 4. Just kidding. In 5, 4, 3. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Cali Brick Clique, episode 73. And like always, we have Plastic Architect, we got Ninja, and this week we have Mary or Mary BKM handle on Instagram. How's it going? Welcome to the podcast. And before we get started, remember you can find this episode and all previous episodes anywhere you find your podcast: Apple, Spotify, iHeart, YouTube. And if you are listening to any of those, especially on YouTube, please comment. We love listening and watching, reading, all of them. So yeah, how's it going, guys?
I've been muted this whole time.
You said something in the middle of that? What was it?
I mean, I was just like,
what'd you say? What was it? What was the Ninja?
I was concerned. I was like, "Are you feeling? How you feeling, Shy?"
I don't know. For some reason, I thought I was feeling better, and then like last night to tonight, I got worse. I have no idea why. Maybe it is allergies on top of whatever I have.
Damn.
Are you taking like an anti-allergy, antihistamine, old man, or no?
I think I need to.
Yeah,
I think I need to. I was gonna go for a run, and I'm like, I can't breathe.
It is good to do like harder things for respiratory systems when you are sick. Like for example, like going swimming and stuff, because it like forces your lungs open a little bit. But maybe why don't you like try doing like a really hard yoga or something instead of a run? Because I feel like that might be
really hard yoga.
There's such yoga, a thing.
But yes.
So anything would probably be really hard. But yeah, like like a nice vinyasa.
I don't mind doing it, but like if I were to choose whether to run 5 miles or do 20 minutes of yoga, I'd run the 5 miles.
So I think it has been shown, and Mary, I don't know if you know anything about this, because I feel like, unfortunately, objectively, more women have done yoga in the modern times. But I think it has been shown that it is like a little bit better for you over the long term is like doing yoga than just going and doing some high impact stuff like running. So especially when you get old and brittle.
Wow.
As a ninja, I have never done yoga, so maybe I should get on this.
Yeah. You got to keep those joints flexible. Mobility exercises when you're like, getting older are real important. Just gotta be able to get up and get down.
This is like a throwback to the boomer energy.
Yeah, I mean,
this is hardcore that right now. It's so hard to do anything.
I just remember like my parents, even when I was younger, I remember like maybe they were like early 50s and stuff. Like they never wanted to come and sit down on the floor with me, or like getting up and getting getting up from sitting down on the floor was like very difficult. And now that I'm not that far away from that age group, it like doesn't seem as far away as it once felt. Like I'm like, oh yeah, we gotta get moving. We gotta get moving so we can get up off the floor. So can't break a hip. So
age is a state of mind. All right, 30 is the new 20.
I think in theory, but there is like a significant cellular breakdown that we need to also not ignore.
We're ignoring that.
Yeah, that's the reality check. Yeah.
Why are we pretending like we're like so old?
We're not that old. It's just like the things we do now in our 30s are impactful to like when we're older. I think it will make a difference now, right? So like taking care. I mean, So, which is why we play with Lego, why we like try to keep ourselves young. I think there's like something to that. I think there's something to that spirit.
Such a motivation start to this episode, Claire.
Yeah, right. Yeah, here we go. Let's do this.
Well, let's get started then, right? There's really not much in Lego news that's happened since last time we spoke, right? We talked about the Brooklyn Designer Program briefly last time. Now that's like literally already passed at the time of this release and this recording.
Yeah.
What did you want to buy? You're gonna hit all of them, aren't you?
I don't know though. No, I probably won't. I remember we did this last time. Like last time the Brooklyn Designer Program, it was round 2, was like coming out. We like filmed an episode of Cali Brick Clique before like the release date. And it's probably on record somewhere, me saying like, I'm not buying any of the sets. Like, I'm not interested in any of them. Like, I don't want them. And then Sans was like, I'm going to get one of them. And he went and bought one of them. And I don't know what happened. It was like something in like a it wasn't even like a full 10 seconds that like, I think something in my brain shifted and I went from $0 to $1,000. And it was like immediate. And it was like, it's a very dangerous game to play when you have disposable income, unfortunately. And then I think, and it was still very pandemic energy. I feel like we were still pretty shut down. I wasn't spending money on like traveling and like other things that I usually would spend money on, so it didn't feel as impactful. But like they haven't shipped this out yet, so there's still that impact. We talked about this last time. There's still that impending bill or charge on my American Express. So
they still haven't even sent out any of the sets yet?
Just round 1, not round 2. Round 2 is supposed to be sent out any minute now. And the reality is, like, I think because like I'm much more ingrained in like normal day-to-day activities, like I'm traveling again, so I'm spending money in other ways. I actually think that's going to keep me a little bit at bay.
You know what's going to suck? Is that at Brick World Chicago, it's going to be the garage sale, and we're going to want to buy a bunch of stuff, and then boom, you just got hit with $1,000.
And I think there's like a big release. I think Chicago is like all the Harry Potter stuff in the US is coming out, which is like a big thing for me. And so I think it's going to be expensive. Like last year at Brick Fair, Virginia, it was like a big release day. I remember like buying stuff online from the convention.
I've fallen into that trap where I'm like, look, I know Lego's not going to send us out anytime soon, so I can just buy it now, pay later type of deal, but not necessarily with the interest, obviously, because it's not like a credit card. It's going to hit me later. But like, I ordered my last 200 Black Falcons for my 1,000 Black Falcon goal, presuming it was going to take 10 weeks like it usually has to finally hit my account. And literally 6 days later, I get that email. Hey, your order has been processed. It's out for delivery or whatever, like that, whatever the email I sent that it's on its way. Here's a tracking number. I'm like, so then I check my bank account. I'm like, oh, there it is. And I'm
That's
like,
funny because I remember you saying you were going to wait. And then later, I think I caught you in a live stream. And you're like, yeah, I got 200 more coming. I was like, what? Okay.
It's the last 200. I didn't want them to disappear. The new Lego bricks and pieces thing or whatever they call it now. It's not like how it was. Like the inventory is so minimal in comparison to what it was. I hope that changes, but
there's like not much to buy.
It's not
like
much to buy. But what's cool though is that any part that's listed as bestseller, I just found this out yesterday, ships like within 5 days, and I didn't know that. And the torso and legs were on there, and I was like, I might as well just order all 200 now, call it a day. And I can worry about all the accessories or stuff like that at a later time, which I plan on doing. But anyways, speaking of all this Lego talk, we have someone on here that a lot of this might be foreign to her. And I remember watching I think Beyond the Brick stream with Brickmania designers, right? I don't know if you remember that. I think that was like last year around this time. And then you disclosed on there that your experience with Lego isn't vast. And I remember seeing Josh's face after asking that question, the shock behind his eyes, like, oh, snaps, you're not a Lego fan before this. And then she obviously explained her story, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So let's talk about that. You're not a Lego fan before you came to Brickmania, right?
Well, I was a casual Lego fan, but it's not like I was building mocks. It's not like I was buying a bunch of sets. It's more like my parents would get me Lego kits for Christmas, and like I had my little Creator 3-in-1 thing, and I was like, that's good. and then I was going to school for product design, and I found out I really wanted to get into toy design. So just kind of researching like what's out there. And I mean, Lego is a really cool company. And I just kind of got more interested in it. And from there, I was talking to one of my instructors, and she was asking, she was like, what do all of you want to do after graduation? You know, that classic question. And I was like, oh, like I'll go work for Lego, you know, because everyone's satisfied with that answer because they're like, oh yeah, that seems cool. And I told that to her, and she was like, have you ever heard of Brickmania? And I was like, no, what's Brickmania? And her neighbor
cool.
is in charge of like the UV print room. So she was like, "Oh, I've got, a connection there. You can maybe go for an informational interview." So I emailed them, I like called them, chatted with them. It's like, "Hey, like, can I do an informational interview and just like see your process? Like, I'm interested in how you design things, all that." And so like I came in for a tour, and then they were like, "This is all the stuff we do." And I was like, "Man, that's awesome." And then they were like, "Well, are you a designer?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well, we're low key hiring. Like, why don't we stay in contact?" And I was like, yeah, okay. This sounds incredible." And from there, like we did like a formal interview and everything. And I started like immediately after graduation, which is like right place in the right time. And like, it worked out really well, but I'm definitely like I'm still like learning about the AFOL community. When when Shy was like, "Hey, do you want to be in this podcast?" I was like, "Sure." And so I've been listening to a lot of the episodes, and I'm like, you guys are saying things, and I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I'm like, I think this is definitely for people who like are already invested in the community and like watch content and stuff. And I'm like, this is completely new. You guys are using acronyms. I don't know. I'm just along for the ride.
And that's
We
what's
love our
interesting
acronyms.
about it, is that you do something that's like coveted for like a lot of mockers to be a designer of some sort, let alone like the Lego designer. And like we forget, when I look at people, like you look at the history or the resumes of actual Lego designers who work for Lego, a good chunk of them just came from toy design. Like not so much like, I think Amy, like Lego Master Amy, she wasn't necessarily a huge Lego fan before coming into Lego, and she was a toy designer. That's what she graduated school for. And then look at her now; she's on Fox Lego Masters and is in charge of the entire Friends line. So it's really cool to see like I know Lego does that a lot, but getting outside perspective into the community and into like the business side of it. So what do you think of the Lego community like now that you're like about it almost a year in?
Well, yeah, so almost 2 years now at
Oh, 2
Brickmania.
years, forgive me.
And I guess I've been really exposed to like the Brickmania community and people online and all that. And last year we went to Brick Fair, Virginia, and like Omaha Brick Days. I don't know, one of the other conventions. And so that was like my first like exposure to that. And it's just kind of wild how into it people are, because I mean, I find myself maybe into like a lot of things at like surface level, but I don't think I have that like deep passion for any one specific subject that a lot of people do in this community. And I think it's very interesting to like see people who have invested a lot of time and a lot of energy into it, and to hear the conversation. I'm still not like participating in that conversation much. I'm just like still like taking it in. I've been keeping up to date on like, the new Lego releases, which I've never done before, but that's mostly for like, so I know what new parts are coming out. So maybe in a year or so, or whenever it becomes more available, I can use it in a Brickmania kit. But, and like, everyone's been super nice in the community. Like sometimes people are weird online, but that's just the internet. So, but like overall, it's been like, it's fun. It's kind of interesting to hear like little drama things, which, it's like in any community, there's drama, but I'm still like kind of an outsider, like looking in. So it's still entertaining because I'm not involved.
At least in Brickmania, you kind of have like this kind of isolated community within the community. And like, it's a good way to kind of get an introduction to what this whole vastness is. But then you're stepping away from it, going further outwards, in which most Lego fans start out as, and then kind of figure out their niche from there. Like, do you find yourself like taking interest in any specific like area? I know you kind of said you're kind of just observing from afar, but like, is there a specific theme outside of Brickmania like that's actually from Lego that you find interesting?
Well, I've always liked the creator sets since just my fiance and I started collecting the modular buildings. So it's classic,
Oh, no.
Everyone's got them. But they're really fun,
Are you trying to get all of them?
Say that again?
Are you trying to get all of them?
We're trying to get all of them from the Parisian restaurant on. So we just did our first like Bricklink order to get parts for the brick bank because it's like super expensive otherwise. So I'm like, I'm getting into it. But like mostly online, I'm still like, I'll like scroll through Instagram and I follow certain people that make like cool mocks and stuff. I'm not really like a YouTube person, so I don't watch a lot of video, but I do read like tips and bricks and like that sort of thing. So it like breaks down sets and stuff. I would say my favorite line though is probably like Creator 3-in-1.
Right. I feel like Creator 3-in-1 is like Lego at its best. Because you get 3 different builds, and then after that you could still take it apart and do whatever you want.
For sure. I think it promotes that creativity that some of the newer ones or like the more complex ones don't, because it's like, how could you take this apart? It's like so intricate. It's so
right.
But like Creator 3-in-1, you're just like, just take it apart again.
Yeah, it feels less like a model.
I guess we never really said it in this episode so far. What do you do for Brickmania? Whoops, I'm sorry.
I'm a kit designer there. So Brickmania, I mean, Shy's talked about it a lot, but we make like scale model military builds for the most part. And I've designed a lot of tanks in the last 2 years. I also project manage kits. So we've got some outside designers from all over the world who design kits for us. And I kind of bring them up to Brickmania standards. So I go through like the procedure and stuff that we do in-house. But a kit designer. Is there pressure for you to get things historically accurate with your sets? I mean, for sure. Like we want to be as accurate as possible. And when I started out, I think it was just, I felt like I was kind of thrown into it. I don't know. So I was still like figuring things out and figuring out like Lego technique. So I was learning like the Lego technique on top of trying to be super precise with like military history, which is also something that I don't have a background in. So I was like new on both fronts. Now it's like I have a better sense of like where people are more lenient, or I know how to ask for better feedback, or I mean, when I post things online, like I am looking for feedback. So if people like critique certain things, like that's all fine with me. Like we want to be able to put out the best kits possible. So if someone's like, oh, that tail should be slightly different, or there's not an antenna there, I'm like, great. Like maybe they have better source. Like maybe they interacted with the actual vehicle, which is something I haven't gotten to do. So I think all that outside, there is like pressure to do so, but I think it's good because that is the product we're putting out, and those are our customers. So I mean, it's kind of necessary.
Mm-hmm. It's good that you take the critiques as corrective criticism and not just like, oh, I should stop, I suck.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that wouldn't take me anywhere. So
how much have you think you've grown in your knowledge in the past 2 years with all of this?
Just I so much. It's just I feel like looking back from where I started, I was like, what was I even doing? So it's just I know so much. I just have such a better sense for Lego and for like how to research things and what sites are like reliable and people that I like 100 times like from what I've previously done, which is kind of wild. It's only been 2 years, but I feel like very, very comfortable now at Brickmania. Like I'll work on anything that they want. So
that's crazy
awesome.
that you came in 2 years ago when the pandemic just like hit, and like so many new fans came in at the same time. So you can attest to being one of those two, technically by force, because you chose the job and you have
Also,
to kind of understand it.
a lot of those adults that came in are collecting the modulars as well. That's like part of the reason, like I think the price has like gone up for them as well too, which is okay. I mean, it makes sense. They are very, very cool. But man, something like Brickbank, I remember that being, I didn't buy it either. I also parted it out on Bricklink because it was significantly cheaper, but I remember that being on shelves for a while.
Anyway. I didn't buy that set either when it first came out. I should have.
You bought it retired too, right?
I bought it retired shortly after it retired.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that bad.
Well, it retired so much sooner than the other ones.
Yeah, but it was like on sale for like a while, which is like crazy.
I wish I was into it back then.
Right.
I know. The list goes on and on of like the things I should have bought whenever. There's a set now. It's like this gigantic castle. We were just talking about it last night. This gigantic castle chess set that even a year ago was $1,000 new in box. It was originally $200, and now it's
available in North America.
Yeah, it's like it's now $2,000 new in box. It's like if we knew, if only we knew, like, you know, to buy it for like even $400. You know, if you it's a gigantic. It's we can look into that later.
It's really cool. It's like the fantasy Lego chess set.
It's huge. It's huge.
With the minifigure? Oh, okay, never mind.
It's huge. It's huge. Yeah, it's like I can't believe it was only $200. It's like something now would be like at least $400 if it came out, like maybe more. Yeah.
The minifigure selection, that alone is intense because you can play 4 different factions, obviously 2 at a time, but you can choose between the orc, the dwarves, the humans, and
they give you all the options.
Yeah, you can choose which one. So it's like the amount of pieces on minifigures in that does not equate to a $200 price point now.
No. It's definitely like a type of product that like isn't made anymore. You know, it's just like, it's very cool.
And another thing with that set is like that comes from a period of Lego where it's kind of like a lot of people were in a dark age and it just wasn't doing well. So a lot of people didn't hold on to that stuff. So like the inventory of what was cool now or what people would think is cool now is not there. So and that's what sucks about it. It's just as hard. I feel like sometimes it's just as hard to get something like that from that time period than at the same how am I gonna say that? It's just as hard to get something in that decade as it is 2 decades before or a decade before, with the amount of inventory that's out there to buy.
Yeah, I mean, you mean like with like the fluctuations of the company?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
I'm trying to collect a lot of the old G Castle stuff, and like not a lot, but like the ones that I had in my collection. And I look at what's on Bricklink and what's available, and some of these sets, there's more of those sets available to buy in the secondhand market, used even, than there are like the fantasy castle stuff, like that giant chess set. You know what I mean? Like there's only 5 of those available on Bricklink, or like 20 total around the world, and 1 on eBay.
Also, it's technically a chess set, and that's another thing that people collect. So
it's just crazy to see how far like the fandom has gone in like 2 years, and it's cool to hear that like perspective of someone who came in just 2 years ago, because usually I came in like a couple years, like maybe a year and a half before, like officially into the community. And then Claire was always a fan, but she showed up around that time too.
Yeah, like the social media aspect of it, and then just like consuming at like a rate like that was so much more intense. Man, like reallocating assets basically to make it work.
So
that's when you know.
Do you have that problem that us two have, not so much Ninja and Mary, of consuming Lego? You are collecting a lot of modulars, so are you like going through all these vast inventory of sets and be like, oh, that's cool, maybe I might pick that up?
No, I have a lot of self-control. Honestly, if it weren't for my fiance, I probably would not have started collecting the modular buildings just because of the price point. I'm like, I can't spend that much money on something. But it's like, I totally could. It's just, I'm not used to it. So because he was like, oh, we should start doing this, I was like, okay, yeah, like we're both into it. This is fine. But I try to just like stick to that because I know, I mean, like you guys have talked about it, like, but once you like open yourself up to getting more things, then it's like, what if I want more of it? You know,
it's a slippery slope.
So if I keep to like just the modular buildings, like it's a limited selection, and I'm saying Parisian restaurant onward. I'm not going back any farther. I'm not trying to like get super old kids or anything. So,
and you know what? If you're just getting modulars, like it doesn't seem that crazy. But if you're like getting modulars and a bunch of other stuff and UCS sets, and you know, that's when it gets crazy, I think.
So, I also wouldn't have the space for it. So
see, you're thinking about the space.
She's smart. So it's
good mindset. Yeah.
How far are you from achieving that goal of collecting Parisian restaurant to the new?
Well, we have like, we don't have the newest one, and what is that, like a hotel? We don't have that one, and then we've got half of Brick Bank, but we need to like go through and make sure we actually have half of Brick Bank. I went through our like, I actually have it right here. This is my entire Lego collection. That is not sets. It fits in this.
Wow! Oh my god!
the advent calendar thing. So like I went through that and like picked out every single piece. I was like, this goes in the brick bank, and like sorted them from there. And I was like, that's all I've got. So we made our first BrickLink order, but we didn't get everything. Other than that, I think we've got everything else. So it's the newest one and half of the brick bank. We have not built. We're in the middle of building Assembly Square, and we have not built the police station yet, but we own it.
You're gonna enjoy those builds. Those are actually really fun to do, despite the hate you might see online. Because this is something I kind of thought yesterday while chatting with Sans. Like when you, or at least when I have a goal right now to get 1,000 Black Falcons. That's like my goal, right? So all my funds are kind of mostly being accumulated and like allocated to like being able to get that many Black Falcons and like the accessories to make the units that I want. I already know once I finish that goal, I'm going to choose another goal of Lego sets or collections to make. And the next one I want to do is collect like 3 minifigures from every castle like faction. And one of them has to be a knight and then 2 guards, just one of every one to include like the horse garb or whatever it's called. And I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like I attain a goal and then I try to find that next thing. And I know Claire is the same way, kind of, right? So like, do you think you would stop? Or are you gonna go against your rule and be like, oh look, Palace Cinema is only $250 on the aftermarket price. Oh. I have Palace Cinema. Now I need to collect Palace Cinema all the way up to Parisian Restaurant.
I really don't want to. But I mean, that's why you set goals, is to attain them, you know? Like you want to finish, you want to complete a goal. So the thing is that the modular, they come out every single year. So maybe that will keep me busy enough. I also, at Brickmania Christmas party or holiday party, we did a raffle and I won the Daily Bugle. And I was like, oh no, this is like opening up like Marvel for me. And like, there's a chance that I might go down that route, but I really, I want to keep it like concise. Then I have room for other things too, like other hobbies and stuff.
That's interesting though. If you start with the Daily Bugle, where do you go from there?
Well, maybe get all the rest of the Spider-Man characters because you already have so many of those figs. Like I have.
Ooh. I don't know if you know what you're saying. Like I think
there's so many.
Yeah, and it's like some of them are incredibly expensive, and it's fine. I mean, it's fine. Look, like you could. So okay, my roommate, other half partner, whatever you want to call him, he's like the person that's going to be like, it's not complete. Like you're forgetting about this one thing. But
oh man, yeah.
But you have to like, and because he's like an encyclopedia of like all the Lego stuff that's out there, and that's like fun for him. And then other people, including myself, I like set my own parameters for what like a complete collection would be. So like for example, you said like maybe I would collect all the other Spider-Man characters, and to you that could be all the ones that you remember and have nostalgic, ideas of, and it's just one version of a few of them, and you're like, I'm satisfied with that. It's not going through and getting every variation of like every Spider-Man suit that ever existed, including a $3,000 one. So it's like but it's very like, I don't know. I think that you winning the Daily Bugle is like a great thing because it technically fits with the modulars.
Exactly.
It's like still within that like parameter. The only thing is it's like very tall, so it's like you're like, okay, I have to figure out like a new shelving situation. But other than that, I think and then so you're like. Yeah, so if you really like modulars, you would be maybe more interested in what we were talking about at the beginning, which is the BrickLink Designer Program, which has essentially what would be considered official Lego modular sets because they are like, design. Like there's one that's coming out now, which is quite expensive. I think it's like $350, and it's a construction site. Yeah, it's the construction site. And then you could say that like the Lego store and the Venetian houses in round 2 are also in that category. But so
there's room if I feel like I need to get more. I can still stay within modular.
You can stay with a modular. You can get another corner garage and do a rebrickable. You can get, what I mean? There's like so many different things. You could like do your own thing. You could go get Ninjago City, no big deal. There's like so many different things that you could do that are, there's ways that you could spend your money and feel satisfied. And then I do know somebody on Instagram that was partying together in Ninjago City, interestingly enough, and because they have a very robust parts collection. When you have a robust, which obviously you have a very robust parts collection, when you do, it's very easy to like part things together and like convince yourself to do that. So like we have here, I'll show you. We have a very like all our we have like lots and lots and lots of parts and stuff. And so I'm actually parting together some of the older sets like Fire Brigade and stuff like that. And you still have to spend a couple $100s on those rare parts. So like the windows for Brick Bank are like $20 a pop.
Yeah, we're just not gonna have the printing or whatever, or like we'll try to
get something to replace it. Yeah.
I love how you're like convincing her to break her rule of her parameter in your collection. Like you can get Ninjago City technically, or Guardians if they're available. It's a modular if you really want to.
But when you really like something, you want other people to enjoy it too. So I
of course,
spread the love.
No, of course, no. I also like when you're also like secure and you're like, no, I'm not going to spend the money. Like nothing is going to convince you. Like if you were going to spend the money and you wanted to spend the money, like someone else is going to be like, just like push you over the edge. Like if you were like Ninja, for example, he's like, do you feel pressured? Like I feel like you're constantly around the community, constantly around Lego. You love the thing, but like you're not going to spend the money, and that's it. It's final. Like
I mean, and then I don't know. I take in consideration the space, like the big sets. I just don't have space for it. And then another thing, I just don't want to go down the line of modulars because I know I have that addiction, and I'm gonna want the old ones. I'll avoid it. Yeah, I mean they look good. I can't lie. So I don't know. I don't feel pressure.
Plus, you live vicariously through all of us.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's what I mean though. Like if I genuinely am not trying to like convince you. I don't think there's any convincing to be done, but it's also
Speed champs.
It's also it's an easy road to go down. Yes, speed champs. You gotta have your advice. Like
exactly.
Daily Bugle, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't fit on our shelf that we keep all the other modulars on because it's too tall. So we're gonna have to find another way to display it.
So
where do you hold
top shelf energy?
I'm about to say.
No, I was gonna say no. Keep going. I made a smaller version of the Daily Bugle. Like I made a baby one. Here, I will bring it together. Hold on.
Gift for all the viewers right now.
Yeah, well, I still need to do this video. Oh my god, I've been like delaying it for so long.
If you're watching, leave a comment.
Yeah, right here.
God. Okay, here.
I hope you don't drop it like everything else yesterday.
Oh man.
Okay. It's a baby.
Oh.
It's a little one. She's small. Yeah, she's like quite literally half the size. So like it's a scaled down perfectly.
That fire.
So this would fit.
Yeah.
This would fit. Yeah, it would fit next to your other ones. It's probably as big as like the PlayStation. The PlayStation, you said you haven't built that one yet, right?
Correct. Still in box.
That's a tall one. That might actually break the limit. Yeah. It's
that is tough.
Well, also once we put Assembly Square up there, I think we're out of room because that one's like twice as wide. So it's like we're gonna have to I don't know. We're gonna have to do something.
So they're on shelves right now, is what you're saying.
It's on top of a calyx, so like a 5x5 IKEA calyx.
Of course it is.
Yep.
Like
Of course it is.
it's always on top of one of those shelves.
Either
shelves.
a Billy bookcase or a trusty calyx. Yeah, exactly.
Calyx in front of me. I have a big bookcase to my left. Your day job is like touching brick all day, right? Essentially.
Yeah, I would say it's like 60% of what I do. So majority of what I do. But then I have to make instructions and like do the like L-draw, like the CAD of the physical model and stuff. So there's still like the digital aspects.
We're gonna get into that in a second. But like before we segue to that, I do have a question. Like when I used to work for Lego, like I didn't buy as much working for Lego because I built all day. Not necessarily meaning that like I like didn't want to touch Lego. I was still a fan of it and I still loved it, but I didn't have a need to consistently like do stuff like I do now. Do you think like working for Brickmania, like you get a lot of that building like need or satisfaction when you're actually playing with the brick? Because you do a lot of mocking, you do a lot of thinking, you're doing all that stuff. So when you do, I'm presuming, I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when you build a Lego set, it's like it's kind of numbing because you're just building off instructions as opposed to like figuring out the slant of the front hull of this tank is correct. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it uses different parts of my brain because I'm also pretty bad at following instructions, so I'll just be like, "Oh, this piece looks like it should go here," and then Rick is like, "Why are you building like that?" Like, because we build them together, and he's like, "That's not, it's not on the page. Like, why are you doing that?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I just assumed this is where it would go." And like, I'm right most of the time, but sometimes I'm not, so I probably shouldn't be doing that. But I think the only time where I was like, I don't want to touch Lego at home is when I was working on the Macon Island, because of the 25-foot long ship, and I was like building the front of the hull. I was kind of like following, kind of like a heat map in a way of like where to put different layers of all plates. And so I was like building this front curve, and I got home and I was like, I don't want to like think about Lego. Like, it was just too much Lego. But otherwise, it's like they're different enough that I'm open to like building with Lego on the weekend and like working on a tank all week. Like, that's fine.
I mean, it's totally two different things. But like the Macon Island, I did see like you guys post up images of like how that process happened, and looking at that diagram of where you're placing your bricks looks painstakingly annoying. So I totally understand. Yeah, it makes sense when you were to think about it, but like if you were to, that's a lot of places. Like the room for error is pretty high.
Yeah,
at least it looks like it.
It was still fun to like work on, and I'm glad I got a chance to do that. But I also was like, that's good. Like, that's enough of that.
So now we kind of talked about a little bit, like what is the process for a Brickmania designer? Like, once you have I know you guys have a list of all the sets and all the like vehicles you're going to make, like what goes on from there?
Yeah, so normally, yeah, we've got that big project list, and Dan is always like filling things in. So if I am assigned a certain tank, so normally I look to see if Brickmania has done in the past, because oftentimes I don't know. I don't know the entire Brickmania catalog yet. So I'll just be like, Dan, is this like an update, or is this brand new? So if it's an update, then I'll go like grab that kit and I'll see like what needs to be changed. Oftentimes it's like, that part's not available anymore, or like this was made 3 years ago and now there's like 400 new Lego pieces we could use instead. So in that case, it's a little bit different. But if we're starting from scratch, always start with research. So try to find blueprints of it, which for like World War II tanks, like that's super easy. There's a whole bunch of blueprints. And then read a lot online. We also have a library, so every once in a while, like we'll go grab books from there, try to get as much information as possible on it, look at a lot of photos, and then we like scale down the blueprints. We always do it in the same like 1/35th scale, and then we just kind of go from there. Start with the pile of bricks, and like at this point now, I'm like, oh, like that should be this piece. Like I know a piece in my head, and I can go like get it from. We've got these like super long drawers full of Lego. And I'm like, oh, like I'm building in dark bluish gray, and I know this piece is available in dark bluish gray, and it would work for that. So like, you know, then you kind of start like the techniques and all that. Once the tank is finished, you might like ask around for some feedback, make some updates to it. But then we go into a program called Bricksmith. It's kind of like Studio, but it's like better and worse. It doesn't have like the nice graphic interface that Studio has, but it also, coming from someone who's used like SolidWorks as like a system, it was like a super easy, like it seemed like a dumbed down version of SolidWorks, just because of the way that you control things and all that. So take apart the tank in sections and then like make it again in LDraw in Bricksmith, and then that will generate a part list. We have to go like price out and make sure that all those pieces are available, either on Bricklink or from Lego. And then from there, it kind of goes, we talk to like Lando for minifigs. We talk to Slam for printing on pieces. That's kind of that section. And then like I kind of hand it off, and then I don't see it for a while. And then it comes back to me once the minifig's done and once all the art is done. And then I have to make the instructions for it. So that is another program we use called LPub, and it bases off that original CAD model that we did, and you can break it in like step by step. So I have to go through and be like, this is the first layer, this is the second layer, and then I put in a program that does like a rendering, and then I bring that into Illustrator and make it all nice and look good. Do corrections on that, and then by the time I'm done with those last corrections, it's like production has like bought all the pieces and like sorted all of them, and quality check has gone through, and they're waiting in the box ready, and you put the instructions in and send them out the door. And that's like a 5-week, 6-week process. So it's pretty quick.
How does that feel to have something you designed to be in people's rooms like mine?
I mean, it's pretty wild. I think it's very interesting, like meeting people and they're like, oh, like I have your design, or like, what did you think about when you were designing this? Or like, and they talk to me about it, and I'm like, that's just what, like, I had that on my desk, like just a little bit ago. And now there's like 50 of them in the world, just like in random people's houses. That's so cool. I still think it's very exciting, especially when people like post about it on Instagram and stuff. They're like, got this new like Mary Wilson design Brickmania kit. And I'm like, that's me. Like, that's so fun. I don't know. It's still exciting.
As it should be. Yeah.
So I presume you like this.
Yeah. I do really like this.
Did you see yourself being at the position you're in 2 years ago?
I mean, like graduating into the pandemic, I was like, I'll be lucky if I get any job, you know? So when I got this position, I was like, this is incredible. Like, let's see how it goes. I truly don't have that much forethought, so I can't say I was really trying to imagine myself, like what I would be doing 2 years. Like for right now, it's like, what would I be doing 2 years from now? I've got absolutely no clue. Maybe still being at Brickmania. I don't know. Maybe I like go do something completely different. But I think it was a good choice. And I was really lucky to get this position, and I'm very glad that I'm here and I'm doing what I'm doing.
And like so many others that came in 2 years ago that's doing great things like with the brick, you've like found a way to make it your living, which is I think a goal for a lot of people.
For
Like,
sure.
at least a lot of fans to make it a living. Like, you just picked up and ran with it. And
Yeah, well, I just think that like product design inherently is like really fascinating and like a weirdly competitive industry, you know, like whether you choose to go into like cosmetics or toy or like tech, it's all like really, it's like it is inherently very, very competitive industry. So it's like really exciting when you kind of like find yourself in something like this, which is really cool. And it's like it's a well-recognized company that's like, you know, well respected, which is, it's like an awesome thing. It's an awesome like first graduating thing. I remember distinctly graduating during, you know, not the pandemic, but during a recession, and like how, yeah, like panic. You're like, whatever I get, I'm going to be fine with it. And then I similarly to you got a job like through somebody that I knew, as it always is, and ended up like shaping the rest of my career in a very dramatic way. And like software that I had taught myself to make myself like stand out is changed things 10, 15 years down the line. So it's very cool to see you at like the beginning of your career and like what you're going to do next with it. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when I was graduating, I was applying to jobs in user experience design. So it's like designing apps and stuff. And I was like, I don't want to do this, but I'm like, please, I need a job, you know? So I was ready to like stoop down to UX. No offense to any UX designers out there. It's just not what I wanted to do. But I was ready to go there. So I was very, very happy when Brickmania, when they reached out to me. I was like, this is incredible.
yeah, I mean, I remember that time of very well of like the need for designers when you came on. So like you were filling a role of someone that like was well known in the community, and there's a lot of attention to the next people in line in that sphere. So I feel like you've done well for yourself so far. So kudos to you for
Thank you.
filling that gap. Good luck with the rest of that. Hopefully you stay on board because you made a name for yourself in this community. I hope you continue to like diverse yourself like amongst the rest of it, because there's a big world out there in this community, and I know you see it and it's kind of overwhelming. I apologize for that. but you've done great. So good job.
Thank you.
I think I exhausted all my questions.
Oh.
Mary, do you have anything you want to bring up? Anything cool that you're designing that you can disclose?
Sneak peeks.
Well, we can talk about everything because we post on Instagram anyway.
Yeah,
So,
talk about like not hiding your what's coming out, but it's cool. Gets
Yeah.
everybody hyped. Different type of strategy than Lego does. That's obviously.
for sure,
Yeah.
Yeah, all of my like classmates that I graduated with, they're like, "You're allowed to post what you're working on?" I'm like, "This is foreign," and I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's cool." Okay, what I'm working on next, I think I'm redoing the newest Jayhawk, so it's like a Coast Guard, like I think it's a search and rescue. It's more like a recoloring of it. So
Is it gonna be white and orange?
that's next week. I'm gonna be honest. That's what I'm working on next. Otherwise, we're getting ready for World War Brick. That's in June, and then I'll be going to what is it? The Chicago one. Is that Brick World? I'll be there, Brick World Chicago. We're gonna have like I think we're not like selling anything. We're just gonna have like a booth to display stuff. So it'll be more like displaying a mock, which I'm looking forward to. And I think we're doing like some sort of like party at Brickmania. So invites open, party at Brickmania on Saturday night.
Saturday night. That's when the party is. Got it.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I heard about this today. To be honest, I'm just along for the ride for a lot of things.
Well, thank you for disclosing that information. We appreciate it. We'll see you at least Claire and I will see you in Chicago. I'll see you at World War Brick first, and then Chicago. But if no one else has anything to share, I think we can roll that music and call it a day. All right, guys. Thanks, Mary.
Thanks for having me.
Sorry, my kid kept like bugging me. Like he just wants to like break open the door and grab some of this, so I have to like consistently do parts. The Lego is now in the living room. My wife can't control it anymore. Lego is everywhere in the house.